So, the Crew Motorfest has recently released and is the crew's first romp into the sim-like genre. It's a simcade, so it's not a full-on simulator like iRacing or Assetto Corsa, and it's not like an arcade racer like the previous two Crew games. I found that this plays like a hybrid of Forza Horizon and the modern Need for Speed games. The handling is pretty similar to Forza Horizon, but not a one-for-one, and it's also pretty similar to Heat and Unbound since both Crew Motorfest and Need for Speed want to be a simulator, but neither of them go all the way. You still have to brake for corners and watch your acceleration on corner exit or else you spin out. But you definitely still have your traditional arcade racer elements here too, but because you have nitrous and cars still kind of have that arcade racer feel. More like a Need for Speed though, and less like Midnight Club. Going into the game, it starts off with you racing with a bunch of different cars, and you have playlists you can choose from. You have the Japanese playlist, the American Cars playlist, the Hawaiian Tour playlist, among others, each focusing on different types of cars, and through these playlists, you actually get a history behind the cars and car culture as a whole. So that's pretty cool. The gameplay is actually kind of fun, like I mentioned before, it's kind of like Forza, but with the nitrous, but not really. It doesn't handle that similar. I started playing off with a wheel, and at least for me, it didn't feel that good. Force feedback isn't too good, so it felt a little weird, and I felt a little disconnected from the car. Like when you hit a curb or wall, the wheel in the game moves, while in real life, it just didn't move at all. I had to change a few settings too, specifically the damper, because the default setting was just too heavy. Besides that, the cars feel really heavy, so I understeer like crazy, which most often than not leads to me going off track. And then at other points, the cars feel too light, so I oversteer. It feels really weird, and I had to use flashbacks a lot. So playing with the wheel isn't fun. It felt like playing Heat and Unbound with the wheel, so it needs some work. So I just switched to controller and it was a lot better. And also you have difficult settings like turning off traction control, ABS, active stability, which I had to keep on due to the lack of grip. Man, this game really went with the mindset of, hey, look at our cars, they barely have any grip, that means we have realistic handling. No, this isn't iRacing. You could also turn off the ability to use the nitrous, which really makes it feel like Forza Horizon and a bit like Underground 2 in the night, until you realize that only applies to you, so the AI can still use the nitrous, leaving you at a massive disadvantage. So really, what's the point of turning this off? And on the topic of AI, it's either too easy or too hard. There's no in between. Difficulty 3 is too easy, I had about 30-second gap or so, and then difficulty 4 is a little too hard. Look at me being left behind. There's rubber banding here, obviously. Yeah, there were moments where I was able to win, but that wasn't all the time, since in the playlist you race in rented cars, so you can't modify it to go faster or anything. So I played it in difficulty level 3. No, I don't want to raise my difficulty. I don't want to be driving a Haas while everyone's driving a Red Bull. The AI needs better balancing. It's the exact same thing from the beta a few months ago and Forza Horizon 5 when that came out. The graphics look good at least. The car models are at about the same level as Unbound's. They look really good and the lighting is actually pretty good too, especially at night during the Japanese races. When I first played the Crew Motorfest, I got heavy Underground 2 vibes. This is what I remember it looking like when I was a kid. There's also a story here, I think. I don't know, I skipped the cutscenes. From what I got, you fly here for the Motorfests, and you gotta create a character. It's not the deepest. There's not that many customization options. There's a few preset characters here, but you can always change the face between any of them later. You're not restricted on what hairstyles you want to put on. It's not really the best creation suite. It's just fine. However, the customization for cars is actually pretty good. Some cars have better customization than others, some you can't even customize at all. You could change the bumper, skirts, rear bumper, rear wing, tires, rims, mirrors, interior, with each of them having a good amount of options to choose between. And then there's paint and vinyls. and you could even choose designs other players have chosen, so the customization is actually pretty good. So for car lists, you have your retro cars, your modern road cars, off-road cars, your GT3 cars, supercars, and formula cars. I played the 5-hour trial, so I didn't get far enough to be able to get any formula cars, so other than the opening, they felt pretty good from what I was able to experience. So from what I played, it was good. Not bad, not that great, just good. The game visually looks good, but needs some polish in other areas. So the last thing I want to talk about is racing events. For race events, you have drift events. These can be tricky, but once you get the hang of it, they're actually pretty fun. Then there's drag races, they're fun too, and you actually do a burnout in the beginning to warm up your tires, and you actually have to account for where your RPM is at the start, so that's really cool. And then there's checkpoint racing. What's with every racing game nowadays having checkpoint racing as its primary race event? They're fine, but to have them be your only actual racing event where you race with either AI or other players, it gets tiring and boring. Forza, Motorfest, Need for Speed, they all have them. Forza has them because that is a bit more of a proper simcade, but Need for Speed or street racing, not partaking in a sanctioned event, who cares if you cut half the track? It's annoying because if you even try to take a shortcut or go off the beaten path, you have to go back and lose a bunch of time and positions just trying to get back to hit the checkpoint. It gets annoying. Like, if you don't want people going off the track, why not put barriers or curbs on the track, or block off the exits with walls like in older racing games? Everything wants to be a racing sim nowadays. In the past 5 years, what game has come out that wasn't a remaster of an older game that was a pure arcade racer? Flat out around a tight turn, just sensing it without having a fear of spinning out. Need for Speed Heat? No, you have slow and tight corners and turns you need to brake for. Need for Speed Unbound? No, same thing, but this time with annoying cops that don't leave you alone and spawn everywhere. WRC, Simcade. Grid, Simcade. Forza, Simcade. Dirt Rally, Simcade. NASCAR, there is hardly any pure arcade racers that have come out that aren't kart racers, with a few being Trackmania and Wreckfest. Like, what is going on? Well, let me tell you, everyone's chasing trends now. That's what's going on. Old Need for Speed to new Need for Speed, Crew 2 to Motorfest. This is why Need for Speed isn't doing that well, because they just look at what others are doing and think, ooh, that looks fun, instead of doing their own thing, especially Ubisoft. Here in the Crew Motorfest, here's a few things. The beginning sequence where you're racing and go from car to car across different categories and sceneries, the AI voice assistant, the playlist, the pop-up that recommends upping your difficulty, the open world arcade racing game with sim elements, everything I just mentioned is from Forza. Sure, the Crew 2 had a similar opening sequence, but where that kind of differed is that the opening was kind of cool because the world would shift and you would switch to either a plane or a boat, while here, come on, who are you fooling? Should we really be surprised though? This is the modern Ubisoft that follows trends and just doing what everyone else is doing. Remember the old Ubisoft that came up with stuff like Ghost Recon, Splinter Cell, Rainbow Six, Assassin's Creed, and the original Driver games? Rainbow Six is a MOBA now, Splinter Cell is dead, Assassin's Creed became an RPG, and Ghost Recon almost became a battle royale. Even the idea of the Crew Motorfest. I imagine this is going to be its own series moving forward. So you have the main Crew series, which will be an arcade racer, and then you have the Crew Motorfest, which will be their Simcade series. So it's basically their version of Forza Motorsport and Forza Horizon. So overall, what do I think of the Crew Motorfest? It's fine.